All right.
You can see it now, the extraction, what it's costing your vitality, and how the vitality gap is open in your life. You know to use your slider to track whether you're experiencing extraction or expansion. And you started to identify your vitality reserves, and you know they're the route to expansion. And before this series, you could feel that something was off, and now you can see what it is and where it's coming from. And that makes this question possible. What actually closes the vitality gap? The answer is fun and fulfillment, understood precisely on your terms, used strategically. And fun is probably the last word you take seriously right now. That makes sense, because what you now understand about extractive systems. Fun and fulfillment are different experiences that do the same work. And here's how I see it. Fun means doing what you like, and fulfillment means doing what matters to you. Both build vitality reserves. You can build vitality by cooking for a food pantry, something that's especially fulfilling for you, or going to a comedy show, an experience you find really fun. Each one is building something different in you. For simplicity, I'm going to refer just to fun from here on, but know that fulfillment belongs in this conversation too. Everything you've done so far, depending on ambition, competence, discipline, and self-care, maintain function, sleep, good nutrition, exercise, stress management, they all help you function. Discipline helps you perform. Fun helps you sustain effort over time. Fun is not an exit from your real life. It enables you to stay. The actual definition of fun hasn't changed from when you were little. Fun is something you do because you like it, you enjoy it. But what has changed since you were little is how rarely you tap into this side of yourself. I'm a systems thinker and I don't move without research. And here's what the data shows. A study out of the University of Pittsburgh looked at what happens when people, who in this study, nearly 3/4 of them were women, regularly engage in fun. Those who reported more of it had lower blood pressure, healthier cortisol patterns, and better physical functioning overall. These differences weren't explained by income, age, or other demographic factors. The activity itself mattered. These are the signs of physical vitality. Extractive systems and chronic stress pull energy out of the same psychological and physiological systems over and over again. If nothing interrupts that cycle, the body stays in a prolonged stress response, elevated cortisol, higher blood pressure, constant cognitive load, decreased vitality. Fun creates a different state. It helps you mentally detach from demands, and it changes how you feel physically. It brings your brain different forms of stimulation, curiosity, novelty, challenge. And researchers find that these experiences do more than distract you from stress. They build your vitality. So imagine two women navigating the same extractive systems. The first woman runs on ambition, competence, and discipline. Guilt keeps her tied to pretending she can do it all for everybody. And where's her slider? It's stuck on extraction. The second has engineered her life differently. She's engineered expansion into her life. She knows that on a regular basis, her slider needs to push toward expansion. And this comes from her choosing things that feel absorbing or satisfying. Some of them require minimal effort. The stressors may be identical, but their nervous systems are not operating the same way. Extraction is where chronic stress thrives, where cognitive load grows. You're activating your sympathetic nervous system. A familiar shorthand you might know for this is fight or flight. Expansion brings your body to its parasympathetic state. You might know this as rest and digest, building and repair. When you see it this way, you know you need to experience expansion, but there's a requirement for that to happen. for your brain to shift from its default. Remember Alison Damager's definition of cognitive load: anticipating needs, identifying options, making decisions, and monitoring outcomes. You have to be fully present in what you're doing. When that shift happens, you're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, that's the rest and digest. And what happens to your body is enough, and that's a huge benefit. But there's something more. Your self-concept shifts. You start to see yourself as a person with a life beyond what the systems are demanding. You've cleared the expansion point. And you see yourself as the woman who stands for expansion. And that's when you know your vitality is critical to living the life you want, and you're no longer willing to pretend that's not true. Your extractive systems are real. The stress they produce is real. And what's also real is that you need to attend to your vitality to sustain yourself through it all. And fun is how you do that. It's hard to see how fun can fit into adulthood. We've been made to think it's not for us anymore, or it only happens at certain times, like vacation. In fact, extractive systems have forced fun out of our lives. Highly structured professional lives produce extreme routine density. Same meetings, same problems, same environments, same decisions. At home, things are equally routine. Weekends are layers of various obligations and tasks. Everything feels like it blends together. How many times have you said, "I'm not even sure what I did this weekend"? And researchers say this density crowds out experiential diversity. And that's extraction at work. It's like instead of a life in full color, you're relegated to see things in shades of gray. And shades of gray don't work to build vitality. This is why I use that image of a conveyor belt bolted to the floor. No turns allowed. It moves in one direction, and it stays bolted in place. When this is your day-to-day, you're not engaging in your life in ways that make you feel like it's actually happening. Back in episode 5, you used the layer cake exercise to begin to name your vitality reserves, and you know that they drive expansion for you. Now that we're bringing fun into the equation, vitality reserves do a particular job. They help you define the fun you need to get out of the vitality gap and sustain your vitality over time. They're specific to you and therefore the means by which you bring fun into your life. And your vitality reserves help you set the strategy. And this can happen one step at a time. Part of the challenge with embracing fun as an adult is we define it incorrectly. We might be using the wrong definition altogether, or we could be wrong about what's fun for us. I see women turning on themselves a lot in this point. Internal dialogue can get ugly. And I'll direct you instead to the objective measure of the extraction to expansion slider. Having the wrong definition of fun is extractive. Let's talk about Nicole. Her partner loves mountain biking. She keeps it to herself, but she's never up for it. For her, it's terrifying, expensive, and exhausting. But she goes along anyway because she likes spending time with her partner and going out for dinner afterwards. Nicole is feeding some of her vitality reserves and really depleting others. And the slider is landing on extraction. In this case, it's the activity itself. Mountain biking is just not fun for Nicole. And I'm going to flag this as something else to watch out for. Nicole could be falling into a particular trap. She might be telling herself that watching her partner's thrill at making tight turns on a trail counts as her having fun. It's great for her to be happy to be there, camera running when her partner gets some air, but Nicole needs more than that. She can't be doing something she hates and passing it off as something that's building her vitality. Having fun means you're the whole reason it's happening. She's also ignoring the real extraction that fear, expense, and exhaustion bring her. Her slider is landing more towards extraction than she wants to admit. And this is not fun. So let me make this clear because it's true for so many women. When every experience of fun in your life is organized around someone else's enjoyment, your vitality reserves are not part of the equation. Fun is more personal than we realize, and this comes to light when your sister loves line dancing, but it's the last thing you'd want to do. Because line dancing has such good branding as a fun activity, you could think she's more fun than you are because there are cool boots involved. Stop thinking she's more fun than you are. Her fun is different. And we also don't see how fun is situational. Sometimes what's fun today isn't going to be fun next week. Earlier this year, a woman I'll call Emily shared a story about going out to dinner with a group. She felt bad about the experience because it wasn't fun for her. She found it too expensive, too loud, and Emily left feeling tired and sort of irritated. And for her, it had nothing to do with the food or the company. The experience just threw her off. And I've been in Emily's shoes for sure. I'm sure you have as well. And it's easy to wonder what's wrong with you, especially if the rest of the table seems to be having a great time. You can turn on yourself and tell yourself that you're not fun. And this is not only not true, it's impossible. You're just in the wrong place. And this is where it's helpful to be objective. Emily's dinner companions were having fun because their vitality reserves were calling for that experience. That just wasn't true for Emily. Another time, and she might be right there with them. But that night, Emily's vitality reserves called for a different kind of fun. So when you decide to let go of external definitions of fun, decisions like not mountain biking anymore become clear. There's one more scenario I want to call out. It's when you're creating and managing the experience for other people, when it's supposed to include you too. And yes, I am talking about the holidays. When you're tracking whether the food is ready, making sure there's toilet paper, and that everyone is having a good time, your nervous system isn't shifting. You're potentially carrying a greater mental load than normal. At least when you're focused on hitting a deadline at work, you don't have to think about whether Aunt Edna can get up from the chair. And some people thrive under these conditions. It's a great match for their particular competence. Maybe they find cooking a great creative outlet and the tradition's meaningful. In other words, they're answering the needs of their vitality reserves. Others wish they could take a sick day. They do it all anyway, but it's extractive, and they can't wait for it to be over. But what's different about the holidays is that it's where so many shoulds live. When you know what the expansion point is, you get to move beyond that. And let me be objective for you. If it's not your favorite, you're the one doing the work, and you can decide how it needs to go for you. I have an entire workbook all about this called Facing the Frenzy. If you scan the QR code on the screen, you can get it. It'll help you think about how to move your slider from extraction to expansion during the holidays. Mountain biking that you're doing only for someone else. Emily's dinner that didn't work out for her. Holidays that bring more extraction than joy. You've experienced these situations in your own life. And the details are different, but you know that your expectations didn't meet reality. And what's worse is they set you back. Your slider was stuck on extraction when it was supposed to hit expansion. And that powerful magnet at the bottom is no joke. Here's what I mean. How often have you decided to put in another load of laundry instead of taking a walk on the first sunny day in a week? This is the magnetic power of extraction. It puts up a fight. So it makes a lot of sense that you need to build a skill to listen to your vitality reserves. Being Emily, knowing what your vitality reserves need, paying attention to their signals is different. And I know this can be challenging. This bothers me because of what we know about extractive systems. They're so magnetic that we will give up on expansion, falling into the various traps we've covered so far. It's amazing how a laundry will call you back every time. And that's why it's incredibly important to understand how to use fun strategically. I'm about to introduce another tool for you to use. Before I get to that, I'll review what we've done so far. With the vitality gap and how it happens in your life. You use the layer cake exercise to remember your values and call out your vitality reserves. You understand the power of the expansion point and how to use the slider along the spectrum from extraction to expansion. And just now I introduced fun as the practice that keeps you in expansion, allowing you to always sustain your vitality. So, okay, let's move on. This time, I want you to think of a dial. It's the dial that turns up your vitality. When you turn it all the way to the left, the label on that side is numbing. On the right, it says flow. Much like you want to have your life bring more expansion than extraction, you want to be sure that your dial is turning toward flow when you're thinking about having fun. But let's start where the dial is turned to the left. That's numbing. Numbing is passive. It's consumption. Sometimes it means actual consumption. Wine, weed, chocolate. Or it's scrolling, binging. This can be a form of escape. It shuts out the noise for a while. This can be a response to the vitality gap, or it could be a habit. And numbing comes for us all. How it happens for you and the form it takes is your business, not mine. And what I will say is it's not helping to close the vitality gap. And this is especially true if this is the only thing you can think to do with your time. At the other side of the dial is flow. This is a concept developed by a researcher named Csikszentmihalyi. When you're so engaged that you lose track of time. Flow is high vitality. It's guaranteed expansion. I'm using a dial as the image here because there are other beneficial levels between these two extremes. But as the dial turns toward flow, the more you're building your vitality. Your vitality reserves make this tangible. Remember Grace's love from soccer back from episode 2? For her, playing soccer brings flow. It's full expansion mode, high vitality. We talked about how the vitality reserves, creating that flow for Grace, are things like competition, spending time outside, and athleticism. For Grace, soccer puts the dial all the way to the right. It's perfection, defined by a number of her vitality reserves. Having fun is not about perfection. So that's why Grace turned to pub trivia during that work trip to experience competition. And she made sure to see the park near the hotel before staying inside all day. She served 2 vitality reserves. She didn't put things on hold until she could play soccer again. Our friend Grace is too tuned into her vitality to do that. And you might be thinking, but I don't have something like soccer. I don't even know what's fun. And that's where the work starts. I've dedicated 2 years to understanding what actually helps women like you thrive in the face of extractive systems. I know it needed to work no matter what life is throwing at you. And I wanted to apply it to normal life because that's when you need it, not because you were able to book a retreat or escape. And for it to work no matter what your life looks like, including different life stages. And the result is the fun reset. I built it as the counter system that closes the vitality gap, and I built it because it didn't exist. Extractive systems are sophisticated and self-perpetuating. You're not leaving them out of your life, so it's time to make working with them easier for you. 16 weeks, 2 hours a week, where you build the skills and the perspective you need to sustain you. You master your ability to manage your vitality reserves, know which fun to use when, and practice it, making it real inside the life you're living now. I've shared some of the research behind the fun reset. There's a lot more. The framework I've built takes that research and makes it tangible and applicable inside the life you're actually living. Some women figure this out on their own. Some need a system like the fun reset. It helps you understand that fun and fulfillment are strategic assets, providing sustainable sources of vitality. And by changing how you relate to possibility, capacity, and self-permission, You restore energy without abandoning your responsibilities. The Fun Reset helps you stop paying for your life with your vitality. You have the full framework, the vitality gap, the extractive systems create it, the ambition, competence, and discipline keeping it open, the reality of stress and the limits of burnout and self-care to close it, your vitality reserves and the directional question that tracks them, and then what actually closes the vitality gap. The question was always, is this extraction or expansion? And now you know what to do with the answer. The masterclass is at thefunreset.com, and that's where this goes next.